Hi everyone, I'm Krika and this is Art Rendezvous. Tonight we are going to take a trip into the surreal world of nature, dreams, zen, and beauty. I would like to start the show with our first guest tonight, Lesley Kell, who creates her artwork using original technique of synthesizing the designs with the photography. So let's welcome her on the show. Hi Leslie,
Hi, how are you?
good. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
How are you doing? Was it
Good,
you
I'm
having
doing
good
well.
time? Okay. We were just watching the video that you created. It felt so serene and peaceful. Could you talk a little about your art style and what you do, all the different things that you do?
Sure, sure. I do all my own photography and I combine it with design and drawings that I create. Um, and I put the photography into it in a collaging technique I do in Photoshop. It's a technique that I created myself, and it's an original technique I've developed over the last 10 years or so. And it's a lot of fun. It does tend to be rather surreal, but that's part of my leanings. And then what you saw in the intro was one of my cinemagraphs that I add video to. So this is a piece I did using photography from Sedona, and this is Hamilton Pool.
Oh,
So
cool. Um, so the videos that you have, how do you have those on display? How are those displayed?
well, right now I have a whole YouTube channel, so you can link to that from my website or my Instagram IGTV. I have a lot of them linked up there. They're also right now running at gates at the airport, at the Austin airport.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
oh look, they look beautiful.
That's a little collage. They don't actually cluster up like that, but yeah. So
So
here's one that I did recently. We had monarchs in the backyard this year, actually, and it's kind of fun to sit around for 3 hours with a video camera and get 30 seconds of actual usable footage. But it was pretty cool, and that was a big learning curve for me to isolate them and put them on there. But it was fun. I love seeing it move.
so the ones that we saw on the airport, they are all, each one of them is a video of
Right, and
art.
they're at 10 of the gates at the airport.
How,
So they like just the waterfall moves, or that one with the butterfly is there now. And
yeah.
yeah.
How did you go about with that idea of displaying those at the airport? How did it work out?
I actually had a show there for at one point, and I'm muting my phone. I'm sorry. And I got in touch with them and said, "How about another show?" And she said, "Well, how about some digital work?" And I said, "Well, how about some video?" And that's kind of how it happened. And it was a great kind of meeting of need and opportunity and preparation, and it was pretty cool.
It's awesome. So how long have you been doing the digital art?
I started this technique in about 2010, 2009, a little bit in there. And I had gone to school for illustration and painting, And then as time went on and my career took hold, I became more of a graphic designer than an illustrator. And I learned a lot about Photoshop, and that kind of became my wheelhouse and my specialty. And so when I came back to art, I I had developed a kind of a love of photography, and with the design work I was doing, and it just kind of happened. I thought I'll just, put something together. It was based on a book cover I had done for a company.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll just put something together and, put it in my living room because I was wanting to decorate. And then next thing I know, I was hanging artwork at Central Market at Westgate. And that was pretty terrifying. Thought, what in the world have I done here? And then I never looked back. And at the time, it was very, digital wasn't very widely accepted.
Yeah.
And so, but now there's categories, there's in art shows and competitions and festivals for digital artists, and it's become a very widespread medium now. This is my very first piece I ever did.
Okay.
And those are photographs from my backyard. This is how I painted back in the day. This is in the 80s. Those were my paintings. And then, so you can see there's all still very complex and layered.
Yeah.
So my styling didn't change as much as my medium changed.
Okay.
So
But
it was, but the design work really led into the digital work,
no,
because
I'm
I
just
learned to use Adobe Creative Suite, and that's what I use is Photoshop and Illustrator and those techniques.
I'm just thinking your kids must be so happy with you because you know most kids I see they're frustrated with their parents of not they're not well versed in technology or using the social media, and you're a pro.
Yeah, well, my kids are also very technical. I have a computer science IT guy and a mechanical engineer, so they're very technical. So, but
That is-
they're helpful occasionally. Yeah, well, what you're showing right there is what led to my digital art. Was I did these kaleidoscope book covers, and they originally rejected them and went with something more traditional, and then they came back a couple weeks later and said, we changed our mind. And those were the pieces I actually worked out my first digital compositions on. And then it just kept going. I mean, it started out very abstract and patterned, and it evolved into now I do landscapes. I did the pyramids that we showed earlier. So yeah, I was very into architecture as well. This is a piece, so, and a lot of them are location based. These photos were taken in Madrid, and there's a landscape that and this was my first landscape I ever did, and it was a lot of fun. Little Wizard of Oz happening here. So
yeah.
study them long enough, you'll find, butterflies and things like that in there. So
Yeah. So what is the best way to display your art in homes? Like we saw, it's easy to display it commercially on the airports or in the business office and stuff. But what is the best way to show them in the house, or how people can use it in their own house?
well, I have a lot of different ways, product lines. Like for instance, this is one of my what I call my artist masters. They come with some very unique framing, and they're printed on canvas. I do custom prints. Like here's a custom print. The client came and said, I have this strange curved wall. These are my artist masters. So the it's very adaptable. So I work with a lot of collectors who have a specific space to fill,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll send me a photo of the space, and we'll work out the size and the scale and even the crop. I can change the shape of the piece to fit their wall.
That's
And so I work with a lot of people like that. And then I also do prints on metal. I love the aluminum prints. And as far as the videos go, you can put a USB in the back of your TV and just run it. Done pieces that are specific with their photographs. Now, usually I only use my own photography in my artwork, but I do commission work with other people's photography for special occasions, like a wedding. This one was a wedding at the Driscoll, and this was a family that went to Yellowstone. And so I used their photos to create those pieces for them.
those are amazing. I mean, I want to send some photographs to you from my vacation.
Yeah, come on.
Seriously, those look amazing.
Let's do it.
um, so what are you working on now? Like, are you what is your most recent work that you have now
My
going on?
most recent work is my Lumen collection. It's trees and light and water. There's one on the screen over here, but you probably can't see it very well because of the screen. But you can find it on my Instagram page. so those are my most recent ones. I've had a lot of love affair with trees and nature, and so what I'm doing right now is just there's a lot of possibilities to go with this. And then the collection right before that was my the other side collection, which were partially submerged pyramids.
And you have those in collection. So maybe if people want multiple prints, they can choose from a specific collection.
Right. Yes, exactly. So, and when I create a series, I start with the design work and the drawings, and then I start working with the drawings and putting them in, adding the photos in, and stretching it out, seeing where it takes me.
I think we have another video of yours. Let's see if we can play that one. So this one had birds chirping in the background, and so that was awesome.
And that's the only one I've added sound to because I'm totally self-taught with this. So
Yeah.
I was kind of afraid of the soundtrack, but I had added sound to that one and thought, okay, this isn't that hard. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and remaster a lot of them to create the sound effects.
This was great, and learning about all your style and artwork. We are going to pull up some art for sale, but before that, could you tell us how you price your artwork and how it is styled? Because the information that we have is we have some prints, but the price differs by the style, by the size. Right?
Well, I price them per the square inch. So all the information is on my site. If you go to lesliekell.com/custom, there's a whole lot of information on there, different substrates. And so we can print on canvas, paper, metal. So the custom prints are priced by the square inch. And then, so it really depends on the size.
Okay.
And then they're the artist masters with the special framing, and those are on my site as well. And those are one of a kind, and they do not get framed like that again. And they're also priced by the square inch, so it's real easy to figure it out. There's no emotion in my pricing at all. It's very straightforward.
Okay.
But I also have little pieces all over town that can be purchased in galleries and whatnot too, which are also listed on my site.
Okay. And we do have your site and your YouTube channel information in the description of this video. So those who want to see, they can look at the description.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lesley. This was fun.
It
Thanks
was.
for being on
A
the
lot
show.
of fun. Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Flip.
Hi, Krita. How are you?
I'm good. How was your weekend so far?
Oh, it's been good. I've been hanging out with my daughter and trying to finish up all my taxes.
Okay. It was the tax preparation weekend.
Yes, my whole floor is covered in receipts. My lap is like covered in receipts. It's good fun.
And that's a good reminder for everyone. It's a deadline is in 2-3 days, right? So
I think they're due on the 15th, which I think is Wednesday.
yeah.
Not totally sure of the days anymore.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate with you with that. I'm sure a lot of people are doing that.
I know my mind is like still stuck in April. I feel like a few months or weeks behind.
Okay, so welcome to the show, and we would like to start the show by asking you about your art and your art career. So how long have you been a full-time artist?
I've been doing art full-time for about 6 years.
6 years? What did you do before that?
I had a business where I worked with vacation rentals. So I worked with people coming into Austin for South by Southwest and F1 and ACL and things like that.
Okay. And so are you self-taught, or how did you get into art?
Well, my mom was an artist. She was a painter and also a textile artist. Very talented, very creative. So we always had tons of materials in the house. And I guess I started then, and then she was always very interested in, getting us into all different sorts of classes so we could kind of see what we like to do. So I started taking art classes pretty young. And that was always kind of my thing. So yeah, I took classes young. And then when I was in high school, I was able to take college level classes in the town next to mine. I was allowed to leave like part of the day in high school to do that.
So what? So you took classes. So why didn't you pursue art after that?
Well, I ended up going to college for art. I studied at the Hartford Art School in Hartford, Connecticut, and then I transferred to Mass Art, where I had some friends that went to school there. And I was actually an art school dropout because after about the second year, I just kind of realized that I wasn't learning that much and I wasn't that interested in it. I think I actually got burnt out a little bit early in life, which sounds crazy. But I think by the time I was like 19 years old, I was pretty burnt out on art because I've been doing it for so long. Yeah. So I ended up I was a big traveler. I love to move to new cities and stuff. So I ended up moving to Austin and finishing up my degree at UT with an academic major.
Okay, and then you started your business. So now you came back to doing arts full time. So how did that transition happen?
Well, I had that other business doing vacation rentals, and I really needed a creative outlet as my daughter got older, especially like when she was about 8 or 9 years old. I realized that I needed to be doing something more creative because I'd just been working so hard since she was pregnant, basically, or since I was pregnant with her, just working all throughout her childhood. And I just kind of needed my own space, and she was becoming more independent.
Mm-hmm.
So I got studio space and I started drawing, and I was at Canopy, and we just had a lot of people that were coming through all the time. So right from the get-go, I had a decent audience that seemed interested in what I was doing, and I was just doing it for a hobby, just for my own fun. But yeah, it just was kind of an organic transition because the other business, there were some legality things with the city that was coming in, and it was kind of stressing me out. And I have narcolepsy, so I can't let myself get stressed out because I'll start having like the really bad symptoms of narcolepsy where I can't drive, I can't have a driver's license, and I start having cataplexy and things like that. So I had to just kind of let go of that business. And luckily, there was just this really organic transition, which allowed me to just do my art full time and kind of have an audience built in that was interested in my artwork. So just kind of lucky, I think.
Wow, that is very interesting story you have, and I can see like you're right. The art is so therapeutic, and I until recently I didn't know that there's an actual profession for art therapist and who actually help people with behavioral problems and addictions, and so yeah, you're so right. Like it helps a lot, and stress can make it worse.
Yeah,
So
stress is the worst for sure.
but and most of the artwork that I've seen is all that you do is all black and white. Is there why do you stick to the black and white themes?
I mostly work in black and white. Uh, so when I studied in Hamden, Connecticut, when I was in high school, I went to a college that taught traditional graphite. So I was a pencil artist, and I did kind of like the old way where a sketch like that big takes 50 or 60 hours, and you cross hatch with every hardness of lead all the way from 8H all the way up to 8B. So that's kind of what I was trained in. And I knew I wanted to do something a little different because that's a very slow process. It's very tedious.
Mm-hmm.
So I am self-taught with pen and ink, and I love black and white, and I love the contrast of it and kind of the drama of it. So it was a pretty easy transition from that, and it's like a huge shortcut compared to working in graphite in that way. Which can take you, I mean, it still takes me like a few hours sometimes when I have fur to do just like a few square inches in pen, but in pencil, like that could have taken like 20 hours or 30 hours with that technique. So even though it's a slow process, it still feels faster to me, I guess, if that makes sense. And more dramatic. You get that sharp contrast between the dark and the light. So I like that.
Wait, yeah, your artwork is so intricate and so detailed. It's just like if someone gives me a black and white, I would be like, okay, I can probably make one art piece with that, but not a whole gallery. Like you have so much work done, and each one of them is so unique and so detailed and incredibly detailed. Um, uh, do you, what I was thinking is like all the artwork that I've seen. Is there is there an influence of your condition that you have for narcolepsy? Does that influence your work in any way, or influence your style in any way?
I think so. Definitely the working large has always helped me with wakefulness, because if I sit down like on a couch or a bed, or even at a desk, like in an office chair, to draw something small where I'm kind of like leaning over to work on something, I'll just fall asleep. Like I'll just wake up 8 hours later with my head on the table. So if I'm working super large, I'll stand up on a table and I'll work against the wall, or even I'll work on the concrete, and it's kind of uncomfortable enough, I guess you would say, that that I don't just pass out and fall asleep. So definitely working large scale helps with the wakefulness. And I think like all the detail that takes so kind of long to get in there, I think because of what's happening with narcolepsy and the brain cycles, where it's a disorder of REM. So at night I go through hundreds of cycles of REM instead of like 4 cycles. And during the day I go through hundreds also while I'm awake. So it's very disorienting. It's very challenging disorder, because you never feel right. Your perception kind of goes, you get tunnel vision, and there's a lot of like hallucinations with it, like visual, auditory, sensory. It's a very, very strange one. So I think kind of being able to have this point of focus, and you get like that hand memory where you just start doing the strokes, and it's kind of meditative. I think it allows me to kind of work, and then my brain can just go off and do whatever it's going to do. And most jobs are not like that. Most jobs, you really, you have to be paying attention to what you do. And I do too. My consciousness pops back in to make executive decisions, of course. But I can I'm spaced out most of the time, to be honest. But I can kind of draw while I'm spaced out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And kind of do that for a couple hours. So it's a good fit for me.
And now that I think about it, like each one of your artwork has that kind of influence of a dream, being in a dream state. And yes, if I'm dreaming, it totally matched with how I would see things in my dream somehow.
I love that. Yeah, because I feel like
it's like dreams are probably black and white most of the time, I think. Now that I'm trying to recall what my dreams are like.
Some people dream in color and some people dream in black and white.
Black and white.
Yeah.
but you know what I feel is you are such an great example of what they say, when life give you lemons, make lemonade. You make such pretty lemonade.
Yeah.
Such detailed, pretty lemonade.
Yeah. I do that in life. I tend to kind of invert things. So I was like, well, I'm dealing with this disability. How can I take this very same thing that's supposed to be such a challenge and kind of invert it and turn it into some sort of ability? Like, what are the characteristics of it that I could potentially just kind of flip on their head and use it to my advantage, I guess. So yeah, it was kind of intentional. I was like, how can I make what's happening to me work for me through my art?
Yeah, I can, because what I'm trying to imagine your state in being in that state is how I feel when I travel to India, or when I have feel jet lag for next couple of days. That's the state, and I can I can think of being productive in those couple of days when I have so much jet lag, and it's incredible what you are able to do with this. So seriously, that's really awesome. You're being so productive and being able to do so much with that condition.
Thank you. I'm a little bit of a workaholic. I come from workaholics. So I think that's part of it too. Sometimes I'm like, just relax, just let yourself sleep. But yeah, I kind of have that productivity thing going on a little bit. I'm trying to get better with it. But yeah, I do work a lot, but it's fun. It's fun work and it's satisfying. So
Yeah,
it's all good.
following your passion is the one that keeps you going, right? So what are you currently working on? What's your most recent work?
Right now, I'm working with the women from Hello Shakti doing an oracle deck for the divine feminine. So it's the main pantheon of Hindu goddesses, and the cards include depictions of them and their vehicle, which is their animal, their mudra, their mantra, and then I think there's like different aspects or something. I haven't gotten into those yet, but that's what I'm working on right now. And the women I'm working with from Hello Shakti are amazing. So it's really wonderful just aligning with their energy and what they're doing. So yeah, that's been really fun.
I'm looking forward to that one because I so love the work that artists do on Hindu goddesses. There's so many different goddesses. Like we have a goddess for everything. There's a goddess of wealth, goddess for wisdom, um, goddess for children. Like I mean, you name it. We have a goddess of power. So
it's amazing. It's totally amazing. Like the more I learn about it, the more layered and wise and really interesting it is. And I love the dynamic in Hinduism, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's this kind of dynamic where the gods and goddesses, they love humans so much. So they keep coming down into earthly avatars because they think we're cool.
You're absolutely right. Like they want to come and live amongst us.
Yeah. I think it's just such a neat like back and forth with that.
And that's what makes them so relatable. Like, okay, so when they came to Earth and they lived a certain kind of lifestyle, everyone has something to look up to. That this is the best way to live your life. So whenever you're lost or confused, you can look at, okay, what did they do in this situation, and you can get guidance from them. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm looking forward to what you'll come up with.
Yeah. Soon.
So I noticed that you have a lot of merchandise on your website as well. What else do you create?
I do have a clothing line. I have men's and women's clothing. My mom and I used to sew a lot. So she was a textile artist and we used to make our own clothes. Believe it or not, my mom used to make my clothes. And then when I got older, she taught me how to make my own clothes. So I love fashion. I love clothing. So to be able to kind of wed the two things that I love, you know, the black and white artwork and the clothing aspect of it, the fashion aspect of it has been super fun because it kind of creates this way for people that like my art to kind of have a more intimate experience with it, where you can kind of, you know, like envelop yourself in something, you know, like a little like kimono top with Lakshmi's owl on it. If you really resonate with owls, you can kind of wrap yourself up in it. So the clothing has been super fun.
Yeah, I'm eyeing some of those dresses. The placement of artwork is so amazing on those dresses and shirts that I've seen. I'm eyeing some of those. Has the pandemic slowed you down, or how is that impacting you?
No, I've actually been really busy because I've been making masks, and I already had a small line of masks out, kind of for the festival crowd and the biker crowd. So I already had my manufacturers. So it was kind of an easy transition to do that. And I studied the spread of infectious disease when I came down to UT. That's what I studied. And, you know, I've trained for PPE with tattooing and stuff. So I know that masking works. I already knew that. So I started early. So that's been keeping me busy the past few months. And it's been, I'm really thankful for it because all my events and contracts got totally canceled. So it's like, oh, thank you. But yeah, that's been keeping me busy, and it's been really fun. My mother was actually a mask maker, and my next series, oddly enough, is going to be masks, which sounds so crazy, but I had started thinking about that like back in August or September of last year, and they were kind of different sorts of masks, more like tribal masks, not the nose and mouth masks. But it kind of feels like kismet that I'm making masks. And I used to make masks with my mom. We would go to Girl Scout troops and after school programs, and we would do the plaster, kind of like the plaster cast masks, and they were so cool. So I think when I do this series, I'm gonna have my big drawings, and then I'm also gonna have a sculptural aspect of it, which I'm kind of excited about because I haven't done that yet. And I think that'll just be a really fun new thing for me to do. That'll be really hands-on.
And I have my mask right here.
You like it? Is it comfortable?
I love it. It's so amazing. So stylish. Because the mask that I put on, and I'm like, I don't want anyone to see me, anyone who knows me wearing this. But now that I have this, I'm like, oh, I want to go out with this.
Awesome. That was totally my goal.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. And also, I have one of your artwork here with me. This is Leo Rising, and it's my favorite art print. And I was hoping that you get the mask with Leo Rising. Do you?
Yeah.
Those?
I have one in production, and it's really cool. I don't have a sample here because they're making them at my friend's place in Bali. I have samples of his, but I don't know where they are in this mess. But yeah, they're super cool. They're like 2 layers with a seam, and then a neoprene filter insert. It's got interface in it, and it fits like that. It's a little sportier than the other ones that I have. And then it's got ear loops and a tie. So it's a really, really cool looking sturdy mask. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, they had a field day trying to do the lines and like trying to match them up symmetrically and sell them up that way. Yeah. So hopefully they'll come out okay.
I want you to reserve a couple of those for me as soon as they arrive.
Okay, I definitely will.
Well, it was a pleasure having you on the show, Flip. Thank you so much. We're going to pull up some of your artwork, but thank you so much. It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
So that was our show for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe our channel, Art Rendezvous. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more art and inspiring stories. Until then, stay safe and don't forget to wash your hands. Bye.